Hi and welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I took and then edited this photograph using 3 speed lights, 3 MagMod gels, and most importantly, one very amazing and extremely brave model. So I took this photograph on a shoot with my friend, an amazing model, Beth. We're in the middle of a heat wave at the moment in the UK. It is so warm. So because I wanted to make the most of the good weather, I thought it would be really cool to arrange a shoot with Beth, just to play around and try out some new ideas. I love organising shoots like this because there is absolutely zero pressure on me. So even if I don't get a single shot which I like, it literally doesn't matter. This means that I feel totally free to try out new ideas and experiment more. And in actual fact, some of my favourite portrait shots which I've taken over the past few years have actually been taken on shoots like this, which I've organised myself so that I can just experiment and, as I say, just play around with new ideas without any pressure whatsoever. The good thing is that many of the ideas which I try out on practice shoots like this then actually feed into my actual wedding work. So I think they're a really great thing to do, especially if you're into creative portraits like me. And as I mentioned in my last video, which I will link to up here, one of the best ways I feel that we can improve as photographers is by shooting more. So organising your own shoots so that you can practice is a perfect way to do this. All you need is a model, a wedding dress, some ideas, and you're away. I'm very lucky that over the past few years I've got to know a few models now who are now good friends of mine, and whenever I do have an idea and I want to try out something new, I can quickly just message one of them and see if they're free. In fact, I organised this shoot with less than 24 hours notice when I just found out that the weather was going to be good. So in the past, when I've done shoots like this for myself, I've actually borrowed wedding dresses from bridal shops, but now I buy and use my own, and I would definitely recommend that you do the same if you want to do work like this. I find that using my own dresses is just far better because it means that I don't have to worry if the dress gets trashed on the shoot, and in fact sometimes I go into shoots knowing that the dress is not going to survive. I actually bought the dress which Beth is wearing in this video earlier in the day, on the same day as the shoot, for only £45, which is so cheap that it doesn't really matter if the dress ends up in a bin at the end of the shoot, which is not uncommon. So I went into this shoot knowing that I wanted to try and build on a similar shot which I took last year with my friend Louisa. In fact, I actually have a video on my channel about how I took this particular shot, which I will also link to above. Now, for that shot, I only used 2 speed lights, but I wanted to see what would happen if I used 3 lights this time, and my thinking was to have one behind Beth, one lighting her from the front, and one lighting the water, and that's what I didn't have last time. I didn't have anything lighting the water. Now, when it actually came to it, unfortunately, it wasn't quite as straightforward as I thought, because when we got to the beach just before sunset, the tide was in, so there were no pools of still water, which I really needed in order to create a really clean and still reflection. So we waited for a little while, and then just as the tide started to go out, we started to get little areas of water appearing. But what is very frustrating, because no sooner did they appear than they just went again. And as you can see here, in the first attempt of me trying to get this particular shot, I was really struggling to find an area which would give me a good reflection. Now, I should just say at this point as well, and I really want to get this across, how amazing Beth was. Even though it was a really nice warm night, that water, trust me, was absolutely freezing cold. But Beth never complained once. And it's a good point, because having a model who is happy to go along with your crazy suggestions, even if that means lying in cold water, does make a huge difference, and it makes things so much easier for you as a photographer. So a huge thank you to Beth. Now, the shots that I took at this point were nice, but they weren't quite what I was hoping for. So we tried again at a slightly different spot just by the side where the first shots were taken. Now, this area was better, but it was still not ideal, as the water this time wasn't very still. so it meant I couldn't get the clean reflection. But these things happen, and it's always worth continuing to try out new things, because even if things aren't as you would ideally like, as they weren't really for me in this instance, you can still end up, and sometimes even end up with better photographs than you're actually planning for, so always keep on trying. Now, unfortunately, for some reason, just as I started shooting this setup, my GoPro camera, which I was supposed to be filming this on, suddenly just stopped recording. So I can't actually show you any video of me taking the photograph, unfortunately, but luckily I did take a shot on my phone of the setup, which you can now see here. So I shot this image on my Sony A9 with my 85mm lens. So my flash setup for this shot was to have a speed light behind Beth with a warm MagMod CTO gel attached, which was set at 1/4 power. And as this speed light was on the sand, I also put it in a clear freezer bag just to protect it from the sand. My second flash was facing towards Beth. This also had a warm MagMod CTO gel attached, and this flash was set to 1/8 power. And my third flash was pointing down towards me and lighting up the water. This flash was set to full power and had a magenta gel attached just to give the water some colour. Now, firstly, this is a photograph which I took where I turned off the flash which was hitting the water, and this one, which I think is probably just about my favourite of the two, was where I was using all 3 speed lights. So I will now show you how I edited the image in Lightroom. So here is the raw file of the photograph. Once in Lightroom, the first thing I do is apply my preset. I then change the white balance so that Beth's skin tones look more realistic. I then made some global changes to the overall image, such as pulling back on the highlights and the shadows, and then pushing up the whites. Pushing up the whites gives the image much more punch. After that, I cropped the image slightly and added a slight lens vignette, as well as pulling the yellow hue slider more to the left. After that, the rest of the changes which I made were all selective adjustments for particular areas of the photograph. Using a brush, I firstly brought back the highlights on the dress because I wanted the brightest part of the image to be Beth's face, as the human eye will always look at the brightest part of an image first. I then made a new brush and brightened up the exposure and the shadows on Beth's face. I also reduced the clarity of this area too. I then made a third brush to increase the brightness on the reflection of Beth's face. I did this by increasing the exposure, white and clarity sliders. I also noticed that the speed light facing the water had created an area of red in the water, which I really liked. So I enhanced that by making a fourth brush and increasing the white balance of that area to make the red more prominent. I then used a graduated filter to really enhance the bottom half of the image. I did this by bringing back the exposure, shadows and blacks, but the biggest change happened when I pushed up the texture, clarity and dehaze of this area. Pushing these sliders in an area of bokeh like this can really make a big difference and makes the area have much more vibrancy and punch. I then made a second graduated filter to darken the top part of the photograph just above Beth. Finally, I just increased the exposure on Beth's face a little bit more and the image was finished. As you can see here, the difference between the original raw file and then the finished edit was quite big. And so here it is, the final image. So, I hope you've enjoyed the video and found it useful. As always, I would really appreciate it if you could please leave the video a like and also subscribe to my channel for more videos like this in the future. Thank you very much again, and I will see you next time.